You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. With time, the world has become dependent on fossil fuels, in particular oil. The once plentiful resource is now dwindling away. 2050 is the year that the world will be dry of oil. The rate of which oil is being discovered and refined is decreasing much faster than the rate at which it is being consumed. So how much do we know the world has been consuming oil? Apparently, it is consuming oil at increasing rate about 1.2%, and that's we are talking about annual rate here. The world's energy demands are set to grow 35% by 2020. And despite the fact that oil is slowly drying up, the Earth, our planet, as a whole is suffering from the consumption of oil-based fuels. The world is definitely suffering because these oil-based fossil fuels produce harmful greenhouse gas emissions. The small decline in America's oil usage of 10 to 20% will cause a reduction of 450 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. All of the fossil fuels being burned are undoubtedly the major contributing factor to global warming. So of course, while we can't escape the consequences of the past greenhouse gas emissions, we can still slow down their effects. And one of the companies that are established around the world, they are trying their best to see whether they can balance out all these emissions as well as to reduce and also prevent harmful things towards the environment. And we'll be speaking to Matthew from Sage Promasters. It's one of the companies that was set in Malacca where they are striving to save the environment. We'll be talking about alternative fuels as well. So stay tuned.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing, and you're with Grace at the Durian Heat, where we discuss matters or the issues from Southeast Asia. But today we are gonna come back to Malaysia to talk about something which is environmental related, and we have invited a guy from all the way from Malacca, but he's not here with us at the studio. He's still there, and his name is Matthew Rajiv Beck. He is in charge of logistics, and he's also from the company called Sage Promaster, in charge of the logistics and executive. So let's say good morning to him. Hello.
Hi, good morning, Grace.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview today.
Yeah, anytime.
Right. So could you briefly introduce yourself and also where you work and how's it going on so far?
Yeah, sure. Well, I recently got this job in an alternative fuel company down in Malacca. I'm still learning the ropes really because I'm kind of new to the whole logistics, and I think the alternative fuel sector in Malaysia is also relatively new as well. So
right.
Yeah, besides that, it's going great, I guess. Yes.
So I mean, how long have you been there?
Just under 3 months.
Right. So when you think about all those alternative energy or fuel, what was in your mind first?
Honestly, I thought palm oil products.
Right. And then
I guess, I mean, there's a whole different, it's a very wide field, really, and there's all kinds of things like from biodiesel to biofuel to bioethanol, and then it leaves from the bio side into the chemical waste and all that. And then you've got a whole diversified sector over there as well.
So does it mean that the company mainly focuses on the recycling and also sort of recovering the environment?
Technically, it is a waste. It's a waste management company. So yeah, we do focus on that. But our primary goal is to really reduce the carbon footprint of humanity, I guess.
I see. So that also includes carbon emission as well.
Yeah.
I see. So I'm looking at your website, the company website, and it is called Sage Promaster. And also there are, of course, the vision and mission, the values that the company has shared. And apparently, the vision, it is to inspire every stakeholder of the company to believe and support all these activities that is right for the planet. So of course, the planet we're talking about Earth, and then it's been pretty worrisome mainly because of the climate change, global warming, and also the humanity here on the Earth. We say we do care about the Earth, but then I don't know how much, and I don't know how we can measure about our care towards the Earth. So, if I may ask you, how much do you care about the Earth so far, Matt? Have you been practicing any?
Yeah, a little bit actually. I mean, it's definitely a lot to learn. So, I mean, we all know about global warming and all that ever since the great documentary that came out a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But there's really actually a lot more to it. And when you break it down into data and statistics, you see that household recycling and the household carbon footprint is really not as impactful to the environment as we would like to think. As a matter of fact, it only generates about less than 10% of the world's carbon footprint over the past 5 years, from judging from the data. And most of the carbon footprint really comes from the automotive sector and the industrial sector.
Mm-hmm. But then, are there any ways to, we talk about the alternate fuels and also the carbon emission there. I mean, you said mainly it's from the automobile industries, but is there any way to reduce this?
Yeah, sure. There's hybrid vehicles. We could support Tesla Motors for one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're a big fan of green technology, and most of their cars, as a matter of fact, I think all of their cars except for one model uses purely electrical motors. And that's just one of many companies out there that's actually step forward in this direction.
Mm-hmm. So we talk about the alternatives there. Your company, you mentioned that it's pretty new, but also when you think about the recycling practice in Malaysia, it's very, very new. Just perhaps a couple of months ago, the government announced about the recycling of this method, basically throughout the country. So we have to separate all the trashes basically from the plastic, aluminium, paper, and also the others as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and the practicing this, of course, we get to learn and also bring the awareness about the environment. But not many people are really they do have the clear picture of the carbon emission and also this alternative fuel.
I see. Yeah, sure. I think for the most part, a lot of people don't really understand why or how separating your waste,
exactly,
your rubbish, is going to affect anything. Because really, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the common perception is that it all gets burnt or that it all goes into landfills anyways. You know, we don't really have that many, like say, aluminium can recycling plants compared to overseas industries and all that. And actually, come think about it, we don't really have that much waste recovery companies in Malaysia. Most of the trash that what DBCal does is they throw it in landfills. Yeah. And I think, there really hasn't been that much coverage on what these companies really do with the refuse.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to go in as well because it's very new. So. And a lot of these companies mine per se as well. We keep the policies and our process flows very safely guarded because there's a lot of stiff competition for this thing because it's so new. You know.
When things are new, and especially environmental related issues or matters here in Malaysia, it's very important to educate the public first, and then also practice all those things. Another story, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the company, Sage Promaster, it's a Malaysian company, tries to save the earth basically. But then you guys have a certain focuses.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, the household carbon footprint really isn't as much. So what our company tries to do is focus more on the bigger waste generators, so to speak, like in the industrial waste, where it's purely going straight into the ground. There's no recovery for that whatsoever. Things are either getting burnt or just going into the ground. And when you're talking about tons and tons and tons of these things generated each day, as opposed to like one family, it can become a very serious problem.
When I think of a carbon, other than the coming from the cars and all, I can also think of the electricity and also the greenhouse gases is one of the things that hit my mind.
Well, what we do essentially is that we take all this waste that's really going to go into the ground or get burnt in an incinerator.
I mean, also to send to the landfill, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So we take it, we process it, and we turn it into essentially charcoal. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still going to get burnt, but because it goes through a certain process, the burn is a lot cleaner, so to speak. There's really no running away from producing carbon dioxide. I mean, even as we speak right now, we're emitting carbon dioxide. So the idea really is to reduce it. The problem is the more it's generated, it's got this snowballing effect. And that's essentially where the greenhouse gases and the whole thing comes into play. So the idea is to sort of counterbalance that or minimize that. Essentially, that sink is represented by the snowballing effect.
So it gets larger and larger and larger. That's what
exactly, exponential.
So we will address more environmental issues, and I've been speaking with Matthew from Sage Promaster. So stay.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. I've been speaking with Matthew, Rajiv, Beck from Sage Promaster. He is a logistic executive there. Well, we've been talking about the company and as well as the public awareness when it comes to environmental issues. And of course, as much as the company is pretty fresh and new in Malaysia, and I'm quite surprised that it's all the way in Malacca, which I would love to ask you, Matt, why Malacca out of all cities in Malaysia? But we can also focus on at this segment on the environmental issues in Malaysia. I mean, of course, we can also include haze here. So, Matthew, what is your personal take when it comes to certain issues that are environmental related in Malaysia?
Okay, sure. Hold on. Before I get into that, earlier you mentioned why Malacca.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason why we picked Malacca is because it's also known as Malaysia's green state.
Right.
Yeah, and they're really strict about the carbon emissions here. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't help that we're surrounded by the haze at the moment. But yeah, they're really strict about what any factory emits in terms of pollutants, toxics, waste, even down to how much fuel each company over here, each factory over here uses, and all that. So that's one of the reasons why we picked this place, because it's definitely going to be challenging since you're dealing with refuse to start off with. But yeah, I mean, we definitely like challenges in that sense.
Yeah, I can see that definitely. And then the Malacca is definitely well known for tourism, and will that attract more tourists from outside?
Yep. Okay, now back to the question. Okay, here's the thing about. Okay, like I said earlier, there's no running away from carbon pollution.
Yep.
But what we really do need to, in terms of perception, we really do need to start educating ourselves in how we do it. That's one way of doing it. But the second thing is that the infrastructure in this country is not as advanced or as developed as we would like in terms of fixing our carbon footprint problem. Because our gas emissions from cars are still not as high comparatively with certain European countries and the States, and certain Asian countries as well. And even if it is high, our sense of enforcement in this country is not as strict. I mean, this goes out to any business developer out there. Like, everyone knows Malaysia boleh. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So there's always these kind of challenges. I mean, really, but it starts with the person. The enforcement, if it's not going to be enforced outside, it really would have to come in from the inside.
Perhaps the mindset, and also it's the culture there we have been breeding in Malaysia. But when it comes to environmental issue, you keep mentioning about there's no way we can run away from the carbon emission. So that's why the education is important, and perhaps having this company in Malacca is another awareness that people will know in the future eventually, and to be able to practice that. But there are so many environmental issues, Matt, in Malaysia. The most recent one we can say it's haze. But other than that, when it comes to just the throwing at the trashes at just public places, that is also something that is really hard to stop at the moment, because people have been just doing that out of habit. And especially when we also visit Malacca, there are so many places that they are not really pleasant to look at, because of all this trash and the people's ignorance.
Really, actually, I've got a very long answer for this. So
go ahead, we have time.
We'll start focusing in on the individual, and then we'll expand. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. As an individual, you buy your foods and you go home and you cook. And all that, and you turn on your gas stove. That causes that immediately starts emitting carbon dioxide. When you come back and you breathe after exercising, all does it. So what does the individual do to balance that out? Because at the end of the day, you can't get rid of a problem just like that. It's carbon dioxide is a product of existence, and unless you eliminate the existence, which isn't ever going to happen, the best way to do it is just to balance it out. So for every say parts per million, that's the unit that we use for carbon dioxide.
Right.
For every one of those that you put out, how much oxygen? I mean, how much of it are you actually giving back, like say in planting trees? How much plants do you have around your house? That kind of thing. How often do you use the air conditioning unit as the fan? All of this. I don't think people really know just how much the power plants burn in terms of giving you that energy, so you can be on your everyday activities. I really don't think people are aware of how much that happens. So that's one.
People don't know about all this because there is no specific measurement that people have to go through, or is it just the ignorance from people?
A little bit of both, actually.
I see.
A little bit of both. Yeah, because I find that people aren't really interested, and the ones that are take it a little bit too extreme. Where they might start wearing plastic bags as opposed to normal clothes,
right?
And not use a car at all, and just walk everywhere, or use a bicycle, which is great. But if your work is 50 miles away or something like that, then it might become a problem,
Right.
And then there's people on the other hand that really don't care. I mean, in terms of educating yourself, I don't think that's really a problem in the 21st century, considering that, the internet is widely available to everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the biggest source of any kind of information. So I'm a firm believer of the knowledge is always there. It's just a matter of whether someone wants to pursue it or not.
Right.
That's from the individual. And as it grows, then you've got, I'll give you a really good example of one of our biggest Malaysian carbon dioxide contributors.
Sure.
Construction companies.
Constructions.
Yep.
But we need all these constructions going on. At the same time, construction involves improving infrastructures and buildings and all.
Yeah, but do you really need, a whole ton of apartments See, Malaysia has a tendency of building up as opposed to building horizontally.
Right.
We're not space limited like the way Singapore is, and even then they've got a really, really interesting way of handling their carbon emissions. But we don't. We really just focus on the cream of the crop. Like, say you want an apartment in Mont Kiara, and you just put your life goals towards that, and you just start pushing yourself to getting that apartment, not realizing that what you're doing is actually creating a demand for apartments in Mont Kiara, and the construction companies realize this, and every business at the end of the day wants to make money. So if there's a demand, no one really cares what the price is. It's the same thing with WWF and their strive for curbing ivory poaching in Africa.
Right.
It's the same. It really is the same thing. In the sense of industry, that perception has always been there, and the government, essentially, for all these other countries, the developing countries, the government is meant to step in and control the supply when the demand gets too high. And the Malaysian government, to me, I don't think they are stepping up their game. I mean, I understand that everyone's in the infancy stages, but it's a very dangerous time to be laxed.
It's very interesting that you mentioned about how Malaysia do build a lot of buildings, not considering, having horizontal development, but rather it's vertical. It's all based on the business mindset here, rather than really caring about the environmental issues or tackling environmental issues. This is a sort of very long run that country has to face in the future. We are already facing certain issues that's going on. We cannot stop development because we need development for the country and for the economical purposes as well.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But when it comes to environmental, that's why there's always a conflict between these two, isn't it?
I disagree with the conflict. My point has always been the balance.
Right.
For every one construction company, there should be another, for lack of a better word, agricultural company that goes out there and plants trees. That's where I'm coming from.
I see.
But I do see a whole lot of construction companies.
So it's more like a building, all those constructions, buildings, but more green-friendly approach.
As a matter of fact, in KL, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there is only one government body that runs around planting trees, and that's DBKL. As a matter of fact, I came across this one project that I found really, really interesting, but for the life of me, I can't remember who pioneered that or how it started off in the first place. But they've got these artificial photosynthesis machines that take the form of trees.
Right.
But not really, And what they do is they take in carbon dioxide. They process it exactly the same way an organic tree would process it. But the end result is electricity.
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really, really cool concept. And yeah, that's what I mean. Singapore is known for their construction as well.
Yep. And the nation is even smaller, way smaller than Malaysia.
Exactly. But that's what I mean by an initiative to counterbalance it. So everything it's not really even. In terms of greenhouse gases, but it's an initiative nonetheless. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure. There are so many environmental issues, and yes, we did talk about how the company has been focusing on certain stuff. And lastly, saving Earth. Of course, there are so many ways that we can approach from human perspectives and the company perspectives, and also the significance has been around for decades for sure. But this company, particularly Safe Promasters, what kind of things that they have been tackling other than carbon emissions in Malaysia?
We kind of focus on the carbon emissions, but we also do have a side project of green energy that we're working on as a avenue of expansion.
Right.
But we're not fully pursuing that right now. We're kind of just focusing on this alternative fuel at the moment, because we're still learning the reins on how to really control it. and produce a better result. And yeah, it's a lot of research. Like I said, it's a very new company, and not just the company is new. Like the entire concept and business strategy of it is also new, and the technology is also new. So
are these all this technology implemented? Borrowed from outside, or is originally from Malaysia?
It's a mix of both.
I see.
Both. Because the good thing about outside is that their infrastructure is already there. Like say for instance, Germany, they divide their trash into organic, non-organic, and metals. You know, and therefore, if a recycling company were to come in, they can easily just set up their machines based on the waste that they take in. Whereas in Malaysia, it's a little. I mean, the technology might be the same, but it doesn't cater to what the Malaysian waste is, which is a mix of everything.
Right.
So yeah, we need to come up with ingenious ways of doing that also lah. And we're still tackling that at the moment.
I see. Of course, the company is new, and then itself, business wise, it will face ups and downs, and it will need to go through certain stuff, when especially this topic, the saving environment issues, and how the company has been functioning as to save the earth. It's another story there. So any other messages, Matthew, that you would love to deliver to our listeners out there regards to environment in Malaysia?
Honestly, I think the best message I could really send out there, if I could, would be just to educate yourself. And this goes out to everyone, educate yourself on how your habits actually have an effect on the entire bigger picture of existence.
Right. So if I may ask you to the first step that the people need to do when it comes to education, or even practice or activities, what would you recommend?
Besides purchasing a computer?
Is it?
I don't know. Start something. I have a friend of mine. He runs the Biji initiative. I'm not too sure if you've heard about that.
I've heard about that. Yes.
But they function on the exact same concept as this company, Sage Promaster.
Right.
The exact same concept. They take refuse, basically things that people do not want, and they turn it into something that people do, and essentially
that's upcycling.
Yeah, exactly. But the business concept is the same, which is a cradle to cradle concept.
Right.
You take someone else's product and you turn it into someone else's product as well. Or is it raw materials?
Well, that's amazing. So there's no waste after all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us at the interview at the Durian ASEAN. Our listeners out there, if you have any questions, to leave us questions. Also, even the comments are welcome.
You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.